Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my thoughts on Scream 2022, aka Scream 5. So I am going to tell you all of my likes and dislikes or small nitpicks that I have with this one. So we are going to start with the opening and just kind of jump around from there. So I do think that the opening for Scream 5 is actually very strong. It's one of the stronger ones in the franchise, I think. It is a lot more reminiscent of the original film, and I don't necessarily think that all of the opening scenes need to be like that, but I was happy that this one kind of went back to basics on it. So I think that the updates that they did in this one were really good. I liked getting to have the discussion about elevated horror here in this Ghostface call, and I do have to say that I kind of agree with Ghostface here that elevated horror is a little bit more fancy, and I'm always going to be the type of person that likes slasher movies more than that kind of thing. But I do have fun with those on occasion, and I like that they're obviously keeping up with the times and incorporating that into these new Scream films. But I also really like the different technology stuff that we have in here. So I think that it is awesome that they incorporated the fact that, people aren't really answering the phone so much anymore, and it's more about texting and emails and stuff like that. So it makes sense that Tara is not really that concerned with answering the phone as far as it goes. But yeah, I think that that's just much more commonplace anymore to not want to answer the phone. I don't usually answer my phone if it's not someone that I know because I feel like if it's important, they'll leave me a voicemail. So I like that they incorporated that in here. And then I also really like how the security system is being changed on the phone and stuff, where they're arming and unarming the system and all of that. I think it's really creepy, and it just makes me happy that I just have traditional locks and I don't have all that kind of stuff. Because the idea that someone could be messing with any of that just really does thoroughly freak me out. And I really like this one due to the fact that it is a little bit different in the sense that obviously it's not an opening kill, it's just an opening attack. I really like that Tara did get to survive this. I like Jenna Ortega here, and I like her in really everything I've seen her in, so it is awesome that she got to survive this and keep being in this movie as well as Scream 6. But I do think that Ghostface seems fairly brutal here in this film as well. I think really from the fourth film on, it just seems like they up the ante on the gore and stuff, and like the brutality of the attacks. Specifically in this opening scene where she gets her leg stomped on, and I'm assuming it broke. That just freaks me out very much. But I do think that the opening scene is really good, and I also really like the fact that she is kind of on IMDb or something like that, cheating when she's being asked about the original Stab film. I think that's funny. But moving on to the introduction of Sam as well as Richie, I like Sam here and Tara as well. But I will say that I just think that Sam and Tara, as well as some of the other characters that return for Scream 6, are just better in Scream 6. And I don't think that that's necessarily saying that Scream 5 does a bad job with any of that. I think it reminds me mostly of, when you're watching a new TV show that has multiple seasons to it, a lot of them, it seems like they don't really get their footing until season 2 most of the time. So it just kind of reminds me of that, how they just didn't really have their footing yet with a lot of these characters that they were bringing into Scream 5. But then when they get to come back for Scream 6, it definitely seems like they have done better with all of their characters, really. But I do really like Sam here. I think that she is an interesting lead to have. And then Richie, I really like him. I had not seen Jack Quaid in anything before this, and now I've seen him in quite a few things, including The Boys. And I really like him. I think that they have a good bit of chemistry together, the two of them. But I also just think that one scene in particular was really funny, where they are traveling to Woodsboro after they find out that Tara had been attacked. Then she is explaining to Richie, I think either about what stab is or like what actually happened in Woodsboro and stuff. And he's mentioning that it's kind of like Halloween. And she's like, yeah, okay, maybe it's a little bit like Halloween. I just thought that was pretty funny that they included that in here. But now I want to talk about the friend group a little bit. So Tara, we don't really get to have a lot in this movie. She's just, injured throughout the course of it, really. So we don't get a lot of chance for her to shine in here. And like I said, I do think that she is better in Scream 6. But I really like the Meeks twins. I think that they are good characters, but again, I think that they are better in Scream 6 for sure. I do really like the fact that Mindy is kind of our Randy substitute in here, and it's even better with the fact that they're obviously relatives. But then when it comes to Chad, I think that he is funny, and I really like seeing him in this one. I think that Mason Gooding is just very charismatic, and he just will bring that into any role that he's in, at least all the ones that I've seen of him so far. He's definitely that way. Um, but again, yeah, I do think that he's even better in Scream 6. But then we have Wes, and I really like him. I like Dylan Minnette a lot in everything I've seen him in, and I wish that we would have gotten more of him in Scream 5. I think he was a little bit underutilized, and I feel like they probably only put him in here so they could kill him off and have that little for Wes moment at the party at the end, which I do really love that part, of course, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more with him, just with it being an actor that I like so much. It's not really surprising to me that he got killed off in this because Dylan Minnette does not survive a lot of the different horror movies that he's been a part of. So it's not really surprising to have him go in this one as well. But I would say that Liv and Amber are my least favorites in this friend group. They're the ones that I just don't gravitate toward at all. Honestly, when I was kind of rehearsing what I was going to say for this video, I couldn't even remember Liv's name. Um, so I think that that's a little bit funny because of the fact that it's brought up that she's, I guess too boring to be the killer and stuff. And I guess it is kind of boring if I couldn't even think of what her name was. I want to call her Liz for some reason. But then with Amber, I don't know. I feel very conflicted with her character. I like her as a ghost face. But at the same time, I don't like her as a character in the context of the friend group before we find that stuff out. She is very protective as far as Tara goes. So I understand that obviously there was conflict between Tara and Sam, and probably most of that was communicated to Amber at some point. Um, but it's very clear that Tara wants Sam to be there when she shows up after she had been attacked. So I just think that it's kind of annoying how negative that Amber is towards Sam. And I think that she does just kind of need to take a little step back as far as that goes. Um, but I think that she does have really good chemistry with Richie throughout the film, and obviously that is probably because they knew each other. Obviously, we just didn't know that at the time. But I really like when she's calling him Netflix when he had not been able to help Sam when she was getting attacked in the hospital because of the fact that he was watching Stab on Netflix. But yeah, I feel very conflicted as far as Amber goes, and we'll get into talking about her as Ghostface later on in this video. So now I want to talk about some of the adult characters that we get in here. Vince. So I think that he was insanely underutilized due to the fact that Kyle Gallner is such a good actor. He's honestly like a scream king, in my opinion. He has just been a very big player in horror for the past, decade or two. And so I just really didn't like that he got killed off so quickly. He would have been like the perfect red herring for them. So I was very shocked that he died off so quickly. However, I do really like his death scene in there. I think it's awesome to hear Red Right Hand again. And just the way that that scene is done, I think is really good. But like I said, I just would have liked to have seen more of him in here, like substantially more. But moving on to Sheriff Hicks, I did not like what they did with her character here, um, due to the fact that she was so negative towards Sam as well. And I know she had kind of talked about what her life was like after she had found out that Billy Loomis was her father and essentially broke up her parents' marriage because of it. Although none of that is her fault, it is clearly the mother's fault because she should have told uh, her husband about what had really happened and the fact that he was not the father of Sam. But obviously, her life just went really downhill after all of that revelation came to light. So I'm sure that she was getting in a lot of trouble, and you know, Sheriff Hicks would have been the one to potentially deal with all of that. But I just don't like how, I don't know, antagonistic she is in the early part of Scream 5. But I do really like the stuff that we get with her and Wes. I think that she seems like she's a good mom. I mean, very overprotective and stuff of her son, but I mean, living in a place like Woodsboro, you would have to be. So I do like that aspect of it. And I think that her Ghostface call is a really good one. I like the fact that it is very similar to Cotton's call in Scream 3 from that opening, due to the fact that she is obviously concerned about her son's well being. And for Cotton, it was obviously his girlfriend, but it was very similar to that because they're both trying to rush home to their loved ones and try to make sure everything's okay. But I really like her one line in there when she's talking to Ghostface and she talks about how she prefers animated films and musicals. It just seems very on brand for Judy, that's for sure. But I do think that her death scene, as well as Wes's, is really sad. Looking at it from a mother's perspective, like trying to get home to your child, to end up just like or dying right before your child dies, that's so upsetting. Um, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of what they did with her character in here, and also seeing her get killed off was kind of sad. So now we can talk about our legacy characters. We'll start with Dewey. I think that this is a really good movie as far as it goes for him. In particular, it shows a totally different side of him and just gives him an opportunity to show some range, I think, in here. It's been, where he's been consistently, with law enforcement or just part of that type of scene anyway throughout these films. And he is no longer the sheriff because they had to make him step down. It was very hard for him to lose Gail, and not get to be with her anymore due to the fact that she was going to New York to further her career, and he just couldn't live that kind of life. So he ended up just coming back to Woodsboro. But it is hard to see him, in that kind of lifestyle. I do like getting to see that he's got Tatum's ashes, I believe, in a little urn there. But I also really like that he's the one that Sam and Richie are going to for, more information and stuff. I like that he's kind of the one taking that role here. I really like getting him in the rules sequence for this film at the Meeks house. And I like getting to see Martha as well in this. But getting to hear the rules about legacy sequels and stuff like that is pretty cool. And I really like the one dig, basically, that Wes says toward Dewey. And I think that his rebuttal is just so funny where he's like, well, maybe you're the killer because that cut deep. That just kills me every time I hear it. I think it's so funny. But I do like that he, didn't want to help them, but he ended up showing up there anyway because he's just a good person at heart. But now we can talk about Gail. I think that it's a little hard to see this one. You know, with Dewey getting killed off in here, it is really hard getting to see her reaction to that, of course, because even though they were not together anymore, they did still have so much love for each other. So it's just hard to see that reaction. I also just have to say that his death in here was just really upsetting. I don't think it was necessarily like the wrong choice to have killed off one of our legacy characters, but I didn't like the fact that it was because his phone rang and that distracted him. That just doesn't work for me. I think that Dewey wouldn't have done that kind of thing, whether it's Gail calling or not. Like, I don't see that that would be the reason that he would end up getting killed off after everything that he had been through. And his kill was absolutely brutal as well. But you know, I do like that we get to see that reaction from Gail. It's obviously hard to watch, but it's still, you know, good for the plot of the film, I guess. And I like that she gets to be a part of the final confrontation in here. That has been something that she has been not that big a part of throughout the course of this franchise. She's been either passed out or has been shot or just locked out of the room or stabbed, and she doesn't get to be a part of that final confrontation, really. But for this one, she gets to be a part of it. She's hurt again here, but she still gets to go against, the ghost face that had attacked the love of her life. So I do like that for her in here. And then we have Sydney, and she definitely could have been in this more, in my opinion. I would always love to have more of Sydney than what we get in the films, but I like that she's got the line in there in the beginning scene that she's in where she's like, of course I have a gun, I'm Sydney Prescott, or however she says it. Because yes, she definitely would. And I like that she is coming to Woodsboro because of the fact that, Ghostface is back and Dewey has been killed, and she just wants to make sure that Ghostface does not survive this. That way she can't have her own family at risk or anything now that she has children and stuff. But I do like that she is almost a little bit more like Gail in this one to an extent because of the fact that she puts that little tracker on their car. I think that that is just awesome to see her doing something like that. But now I just want to talk about the final confrontation and like the unmasking of Ghostface. So the party at Amber's house, which is Stu's house, I really like just getting to be in that house again and seeing that place. I just think it's awesome. Obviously, as a huge lover of this franchise, I'm going to enjoy that aspect of this a lot. I like the little stuff that we get in here where they're kind of, I don't know, bringing up to each other that they need to be asking if someone will come with them into the basement and stuff. I think all that stuff is funny. And I also really like the part where Mindy is watching Stab, and it's the scene that is where Randy was on the couch and Ghostface was behind him, and she's just repeating the same thing, and she actually has that thought, like, maybe I should look behind me right now. So I just like that inclusion here. And just getting to see, like, more of Stab, like other scenes and stuff in it. I think that's kind of cool because we hadn't gotten as much of that beyond like the opening scene. But then when it comes to actually finding out who the ghost faces are, it's not necessarily a big surprise. I think out of the people that are left, it was pretty obvious who it was going to be. but that doesn't hurt it for me or anything like that. I could understand if some people didn't have as much enjoyment because they saw that coming, but it doesn't bother me or anything. And for this movie, I think it's a little bit different. There is usually one of the ghost faces that I like more than the other in these films. Obviously, Scream 3 is different with it only being one killer, but for this one, I just kind of feel the same about both of them. I don't think that there's one that I really like more than the other because I think they both bring something good in here. I think Richie is more of the idea guy, and then Amber is just a little more unhinged and stuff. But I like both sides of that. And I like getting to see Amber's death in particular, since she is the one that took out Dewey. Hers was pretty brutal, her getting set on fire and stuff. I just think it's really awesome. Um, and also that, Gail got to be a part of that as well. But Richie's death, uh, that one was also very brutal. I do think it was probably overkill on Sam's part. I can't say that I would do anything differently if I was in that position, but I, I guess in a way I can kind of understand where they're coming from in 6, but we'll get to that in the next video. But I do also really like where Tara gets to have her little line of, I still prefer the Babadook. I just think that's hilarious to throw that in there in the context of everything that's going on as well. But as far as like the motivation goes for them to, be so obsessed with Stab that they want to create some new real life content that they could use to make a better Stab sequel, that is just completely crazy. One of the crazier motives in the franchise for sure. I like the toxic fandom thing. I think that works and stuff, but yeah, it's just absolutely a crazy way to get to doing all the stuff that they do in here. But overall, I do really like Scream 5. I think that it is a fun one. There are, certain things that I like more than others in here, but I do have fun with this one for sure. And like I said, I just enjoy this entire franchise so much. But I want to know your thoughts on Scream 5 down in the comments. Is this one of the sequels that you like more or less? Let me know anything about that down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and consider subscribing if you haven't yet for more horror content. I do post 2 new videos each week. You can follow me on Instagram for updates on my channel as well as additional horror content. You can also follow me on Letterboxd to see what I have been watching lately and my brief thoughts on any of those films. If you want either of those, they are linked in my channel description for easy access for you guys. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting my channel so far. It doesn't go unnoticed. My name is Devin. This is Carpenter Hill. Thanks for watching.